Rain pounded the city streets like angry fists as Maya Johnson clutched her 6-month-old daughter Zoe tighter against her chest. The thin jacket she wore did little to protect either of them from the cold November downpour. Her heart raced as she looked at her watch. She was already 20 minutes late for her second job interview of the day. The first one hadn't gone well. The manager had taken one look at Zoe and told Maya they needed someone with fewer distractions. Maya had no choice but to bring her baby along. The babysitter had canceled last minute, and she couldn't afford to miss another opportunity. The bus stop offered little shelter as the wind whipped sheets of rain sideways. Maya bounced Zoe gently, trying to soothe her whimpering. "It's okay, baby girl," she whispered. "Just a little longer." But inside, panic clawed at her chest. The rent was due in 3 days. The electricity had already been shut off once this month. She needed this job desperately. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, its tinted windows hiding whoever was inside. The back door swung open. Without thinking, Maya ducked inside with Zoe, assuming it was the rideshare she had splurged on as a last resort. Her final $15 gone to ensure she made the interview on time. "Thank you so much for stopping. I really appreciate." The words died in her throat. Instead of a driver looking back at her, a man in an expensive suit sat across from her, his face a mask of surprise. This wasn't her ride at all. She had just climbed into a stranger's car, a very wealthy stranger's car, judging by the leather interior and the subtle scent of expensive cologne. "I'm so sorry," Maya stammered, her cheeks burning with embarrassment as she fumbled for the door handle. "I thought you were my ride. We'll get out right away." "Wait." The man's voice was quiet but firm. He studied her with piercing blue eyes. "Where are you headed in such a hurry in this weather?" Maya froze, her hand still on the door. The stranger was probably in his early 40s, with salt and pepper hair and a face that looked like it rarely smiled. Every instinct told her to grab Zoe and run, but the relentless rain and the weight of her circumstances held her in place. "I have a job interview," she said finally. "At Westside Financial Services. I'm already late." The man's eyebrows rose slightly. "Interesting coincidence. I own Westside Financial." Maya's stomach dropped. Of all the cars in the city, she had accidentally climbed into the one belonging to the owner of the company where she was interviewing. Her one chance ruined before she even arrived. "What position?" he asked. "Administrative assistant," Maya replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Zoe chose that moment to let out a soft cry. Maya rocked her gently, painfully aware of her worn clothes, the bag that served as both purse and diaper bag, and how out of place they looked in this man's pristine car. "Driver, we're making a stop," the man said, pressing a button. Then he turned those intense eyes back to Maya. "I'm Elijah Morgan. And you are?" "Maya Johnson," she replied, trying to sound confident despite the circumstances. "And this is my daughter, Zoe." Elijah nodded, his expression unreadable. "Well, Maya Johnson, it seems the universe has arranged for your interview to come to you." The car pulled smoothly into traffic. Maya felt a flutter of panic. "Where are we going?" "To get some coffee," Elijah replied. "And to figure out why you're applying for an entry-level position when your resume indicates you have a master's degree in business analytics." Maya stared at him, confused. "How do you know what's on my resume?" "I review all final candidates personally," he said. "Your application stood out. But I was curious why someone with your qualifications would apply for an administrative role." Maya looked down at Zoe, who had finally settled against her chest. The truth was simple but humiliating. "I need stable hours. I need healthcare. I need something predictable for my daughter." For a moment, neither spoke. The only sounds were the soft purr of the luxury car's engine and the rain drumming on the roof. "Life doesn't always go as planned," Maya finally added. Something shifted in Elijah's expression, a brief flash of what might have been recognition. "No," he agreed. "It doesn't." The car turned onto a tree-lined street leading away from the financial district. Maya had no idea where they were headed, but for some reason, her fear was fading. In its place was a strange feeling she couldn't quite name, something between hope and caution. "So," Elijah said, "tell me about yourself, Maya Johnson. And not the carefully rehearsed version you prepared for the interview. Tell me who you really are." As the car glided through the rain-slicked streets, Maya took a deep breath and began to speak, unaware that this accidental meeting was about to change her life in ways she could never have imagined. 3 years earlier, Maya had been on track to becoming a financial analyst at one of the city's top firms. She had worked her way through college and graduate school, often juggling 3 jobs to cover tuition and living expenses. Her professors had praised her sharp mind and work ethic. The future had seemed bright and full of promise. Then her mother had gotten sick. Cancer, aggressive and unforgiving. Maya had put her career on hold to care for her, watching helplessly as medical bills piled up and savings dwindled. After her mother passed, Maya discovered she was pregnant. The baby's father, a man she'd dated briefly, wanted nothing to do with the pregnancy. I had to make choices, Maya explained, surprising herself with her candor. I don't regret having Zoe for a second. But it's been challenging. Elijah listened without interrupting, his face revealing nothing of his thoughts. The car had stopped outside a small cafe tucked between two larger buildings. I believe people should be judged on their merits and potential, not their circumstances, he said finally. Let's continue this conversation inside. As they stepped out of the car, Maya wondered what twist of fate had led her here, and whether she had just made the biggest mistake of her life, or found an unexpected door to something better. The cafe was warm and smelled of fresh coffee and baked bread. Despite its modest exterior, the inside was elegant in an understated way. The few customers typing on laptops or engaged in quiet conversation barely glanced up as Maya followed Elijah to a corner table. Is this okay for the baby? Elijah asked, gesturing to the high chair a server quickly brought over. Maya nodded, surprised by his consideration. She settled Zoe in the chair and placed a small toy from her bag on the tray to keep her occupied. She's very well behaved, Elijah observed as they sat down. She's easy that way, Maya said with a small smile. Makes it possible for me to take her places when I have no choice. Their server appeared and Elijah ordered coffee for himself. Maya asked for hot tea, conscious of her empty wallet. And bring us some of those cinnamon rolls, Elijah added. They look fresh. When the server left, an awkward silence fell between them. Maya found herself studying the man across from her. Up close, she noticed the fine lines around his eyes and the slight tension in his shoulders beneath the perfectly tailored suit. He might be wealthy, but he didn't seem entirely at ease. You said life doesn't always go as planned, Maya said, breaking the silence. Sounds like you might know something about that. Elijah's eyebrows rose slightly as though surprised by her directness. You're observant. I've had to be, she replied. He nodded, a hint of respect in his eyes. Fair enough. My life looks perfect on paper. The reality is more complicated. Their drinks arrived, along with a plate of enormous cinnamon rolls still warm from the oven. Maya's stomach growled loudly enough for Elijah to hear. She blushed, but he pretended not to notice as he pushed the plate toward her. Please help yourself. I can never finish one of these alone. Maya didn't need to be told twice. It had been hours since her last meal, a hastily eaten peanut butter sandwich before leaving for her first interview. So, Ms. Johnson, Elijah said as she took her first delicious bite, tell me why I should hire you for a position that doesn't begin to use your skills or education. Maya swallowed carefully before answering. Because I'll work harder than anyone else. Because I understand value and efficiency from personal experience, not just textbooks. Because I have too much riding on my success to allow myself to fail. And if I were to offer you a position more suited to your qualifications? I'd ask about the hours, the flexibility, and the healthcare coverage before I'd ask about the salary, Maya replied honestly. Elijah's mouth curved into what might have been the beginning of a smile. A practical approach. I don't have the luxury of being impractical, Maya said. She broke off a tiny piece of the cinnamon roll and offered it to Zoe, who grabbed it with chubby fingers and shoved it into her mouth with obvious delight. And what if the position required travel? Late nights? Unpredictable schedules? Maya met his gaze steadily. Then I'd have to decline no matter how good the opportunity. Zoe comes first. For a long moment, Elijah studied her, his expression thoughtful. Then he pulled out his phone and typed something quickly. I'm canceling my meetings for the rest of the afternoon, he explained. I'd like to continue our conversation. Maya glanced at her watch. I should probably try to reschedule the interview. Consider this your interview, Elijah said. A rather unconventional one, I admit. Outside, the rain continued to fall, creating a cozy cocoon around their corner table. As they talked, Maya found herself sharing things she hadn't told anyone. Her fears about raising Zoe alone, her determination to create a stable life for her daughter, her dreams that had been deferred but not abandoned. To her surprise, Elijah shared as well. He spoke of building his company from nothing after leaving an abusive home at 17. He mentioned his failed marriage. A relationship that had looked perfect on paper but had been hollow at its core. My ex-wife wanted the lifestyle but not the man, he said with a wry smile. Can't really blame her. I was always working, building something I thought would make me happy. Did it? Maya asked. Elijah's gaze drifted to the window, watching the rain. It made me successful. That's not the same thing. Zoe began to fuss, and Maya reached into her bag for a bottle. Do you mind if I feed her? Of course not, Elijah said. As Maya cradled Zoe and gave her the bottle, she caught Elijah watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read, something between wistfulness and curiosity. No children of your own? Maya asked. Elijah shook his head. The marriage ended before that happened. Probably for the best. He paused. But I always thought I'd be a father someday. The simple honesty of his statement touched Maya unexpectedly. This powerful man with his wealth and status suddenly seemed very human, with his own set of disappointments and unfulfilled hopes. It's not too late, she said gently. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, a moment of genuine connection that surprised them both. Elijah was the first to look away. About that job, he said, his voice back to its businesslike tone. I think I might have a position that would suit both your skills and your situation. I'm listening, Maya said, her heart beating a little faster. Westside is launching a new division focused on financial services for underserved communities. We need someone who understands both analytics and the human side of the equation. Someone who can develop programs that actually help people, not just look good on quarterly reports. Maya's mind raced with possibilities. That sounds interesting. It's a new position. We'd have some flexibility to design it around your schedule. Core hours in the office with the option to work from home when needed. Full benefits from day one. He named a salary that made Maya blink in surprise. That's generous, she managed to say. It's market rate for your qualifications, Elijah corrected. I don't believe in underpaying talent. Maya's natural caution reasserted itself. Why me? You don't know me. This could be a mistake. Elijah smiled, a real smile that transformed his serious face. I trust my instincts, Ms. Johnson. They've rarely led me astray. And right now they're telling me you're exactly what my company needs. As Zoe finished her bottle and drifted to sleep in Maya's arms, Elijah outlined the position in more detail. Every word he spoke made the opportunity sound more perfect, and more frightening in its potential to change everything. You don't have to decide right now, Elijah said, noting her conflicted expression. Take a few days to think about it. Maya looked down at her sleeping daughter, then back at the man whose car she had mistakenly entered just hours ago. What if I already know my answer? The Westside Financial Services building towered 40 stories above the city streets, its glass facade reflecting the morning sunlight. Maya stood at the entrance, Zoe perched on her hip, staring up at what would be her new workplace. A week had passed since her unusual meeting with Elijah Morgan, and today was her first day. This is really happening, Zoe, she whispered to her daughter. Mommy's going to make things better for us. Inside, the security guard smiled and directed her to the executive floor, a detail that still made Maya nervous. Elijah had explained that as the director of the new Community Financial Empowerment Division, she would work closely with the leadership team. The title and responsibility both thrilled and terrified her. The elevator doors opened onto a reception area decorated in muted grays and blues. A woman with a kind smile approached. You must be Maya. I'm Carol, Elijah's executive assistant. He asked me to show you around. She reached out to touch Zoe's cheek gently. And this must be the little one. She's adorable. Thank you, Maya said, relieved by the warm welcome. I'm a little nervous about the daycare arrangement. Don't be, Carol assured her. Elijah had the company daycare expanded last week. It's state-of-the-art now. Staffed by professionals with early childhood education degrees. Maya blinked in surprise. He did that in a week? Carol smiled knowingly. When Mr. Morgan decides something needs to happen, it happens quickly. The daycare center was on the 3rd floor, bright and cheerful with floor-to-ceiling windows and colorful play areas. The staff welcomed Zoe warmly, showing Maya the security features and explaining the check-in process. A small tablet on the wall would allow Maya to check on Zoe via camera throughout the day. We'll call you immediately if she needs you, the director explained. And you can come down anytime, no questions asked. Leaving Zoe was still difficult, but the knot of anxiety in Maya's stomach loosened slightly as she saw her daughter already reaching for a stuffed elephant, seemingly content. Back on the executive floor, Carol showed Maya to her office. An actual office with a door and windows, not the cubicle she had expected. The space was already set up with a computer, phone, and a small framed photo of Zoe that Maya had shared with HR for her employee badge. "That's a nice touch," Maya said, picking up the frame. "Mr. Morgan is very detail-oriented," Carol replied. "He wanted you to feel welcome." A knock at the open door made them both turn. Elijah stood there, as immaculately dressed as before but with a slightly more approachable expression. "How's the first day so far?" he asked. "Overwhelming in the best possible way," Maya admitted. Elijah nodded. "Good. Carol will introduce you to the rest of the team at our morning meeting. I'd like you to observe today, get a feel for how things work. Tomorrow you can start sharing your ideas for the new division." "Thank you for this opportunity," Maya said sincerely. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Elijah replied with that same confidence he'd shown in the cafe. "That's why you're here." After he left, Carol gave Maya a curious look. "I've worked with Mr. Morgan for 8 years. I've never seen him take such a personal interest in a new hire." Maya wasn't sure how to respond. She still didn't fully understand why Elijah had offered her this position or why he seemed to believe in her so completely. All she knew was that she couldn't afford to question this chance. The morning meeting introduced Maya to the senior leadership team, a diverse group who welcomed her with varying degrees of warmth. Most seemed genuinely interested in the new community initiative. A few, particularly the older vice presidents, appeared skeptical. "So you'll be heading up our charity project," one gray-haired man said during introductions, his tone making the words sound dismissive. "Actually," Elijah cut in before Maya could respond, "the Community Financial Empowerment Division is a revenue-generating arm of the company. Ms. Johnson will be developing programs that provide real value to underserved clients while maintaining healthy profit margins. It's good business, not charity." The subtle rebuke silenced the man, and Maya shot Elijah a grateful look. After the meeting, Maya spent the day learning systems, reviewing company policies, and beginning to sketch out ideas for her new division. Every few hours she checked the daycare cameras, always finding Zoe happily engaged with the staff or napping peacefully. At 5 o'clock, Carol appeared at her door. "Time to go home, Maya. We don't expect new employees to stay late, especially on their first day." Maya glanced at her computer screen, reluctant to leave the proposal she'd started drafting. "I just want to finish this thought." "The work will be here tomorrow," Carol said kindly. "That's something I've learned after years here. There's always more work, but your baby is only little once." The wisdom in those words struck Maya. For so long she'd been in survival mode, scrambling from one crisis to the next. The idea that she could actually achieve balance between work and home was still unfamiliar. She saved her document and grabbed her bag. "You're right. Thank you." As she left the building with Zoe babbling happily in her arms, Maya spotted Elijah getting into his car at the curb, the same car she had mistakenly entered in the rain a week ago. He saw her and paused, waiting as she approached. "Successful first day?" he asked. "Very," Maya replied. "Though I'm still catching up to the fact that this is really happening." Elijah smiled, that rare expression that transformed his face. "You earned this, Maya. Never doubt that." As his car pulled away, Maya stood on the sidewalk with Zoe, looking up at the building where she now worked. For the first time in years she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. "Come on, baby girl," she said to Zoe. "Let's go home and celebrate with ice cream." As they walked to the bus stop, Maya realized she hadn't felt this light in years. One chance encounter, one mistaken car door, and somehow everything had changed. But even as gratitude filled her, a small voice of caution whispered in her mind. Things that seemed too good to be true usually were. She just hoped this opportunity was the exception. 3 months into her new position, Maya had settled into a routine that still felt miraculous. Each morning she and Zoe arrived at Westside Financial by 8:30. After dropping Zoe at the daycare center, where her daughter now excitedly pointed to her favorite caregivers, Maya would take the elevator to her office and dive into work she found genuinely fulfilling. The Community Financial Empowerment Division was taking shape. Maya had hired 2 analysts and a community outreach coordinator. Together, they were developing programs to provide affordable banking services, financial literacy education, and small business microloans to neighborhoods typically ignored by traditional banks. Today, Maya was preparing for her first major presentation to the executive board. Her proposal for a mobile banking initiative targeting underbanked communities had moved from concept to detailed implementation plan. Now she needed the board's approval for the full budget. "You've got this," she told her reflection in the bathroom mirror, straightening her blazer, a new purchase that still felt slightly foreign on her shoulders. When she returned to her office, Elijah was waiting, reviewing the presentation materials she had left on her desk. "Good morning," he said, looking up. "These projections are solid." "Thank you," Maya replied, trying to calm the flutter of nerves his presence always triggered. Over the past months, their interactions had been primarily professional, but there was an underlying warmth that Maya found both comforting and confusing. "The board can be tough," Elijah said, closing the folder, "especially on new initiatives that challenge conventional thinking. But your data is compelling." "I'm ready," Maya assured him, though her stomach tightened at the thought of facing 12 executives with decades more experience than her. Elijah studied her face. "You're nervous." "Wouldn't you be?" she countered. He smiled slightly. "I've been presenting to boards since I was younger than you. But yes, it still makes my heart rate tick up a notch." The admission surprised her. Elijah always appeared so confident, so completely in control. "Just remember," he continued, "you know this material better than anyone in that room. Including me." The vote of confidence steadied her. "I appreciate that." Elijah moved toward the door, then paused. "How's Zoe adjusting to daycare?" The personal question caught Maya off guard. Elijah rarely asked about her daughter directly, though he always inquired politely about her family's well-being in general terms. "She loves it," Maya said with a smile. "She's saying new words every day and has made friends with another little girl her age." "Children are remarkably adaptable," Elijah observed, his expression softening. "More so than adults sometimes." Before Maya could respond, his professional demeanor returned. "The meeting is at 2. That gives you 3 hours to prepare. If you need anything, Carol can help." After he left, Maya sat at her desk, thinking about the brief glimpse of personal interest he had shown. In their day-to-day interactions, Elijah was unfailingly professional, supportive of her work but maintaining a clear boundary. Sometimes she wondered if she had imagined the connection they'd shared that rainy day in the cafe. The presentation that afternoon went better than Maya had dared hope. The board members asked tough questions about implementation costs and projected returns, but she had anticipated most of their concerns and came prepared with answers. When the final vote came, her proposal passed unanimously. "Excellent work, Ms. Johnson," the board chairman said as the meeting concluded. "It's refreshing to see Westside expanding its vision in this direction." As the boardroom emptied, Elijah approached. "Congratulations. That was impressive." "Thank you for your support," Maya replied. "This wouldn't be happening without your backing." "I simply provided the opportunity," Elijah said. "You're the one making it worthwhile." They walked together to the elevator, discussing next steps for the mobile banking initiative. As they reached Maya's floor, Elijah said, "We should celebrate your success. Dinner, perhaps? This Friday?" Maya hesitated, caught off guard by the invitation. "I'd have to find a sitter for Zoe." "Bring her along," Elijah suggested easily. "I know a place with excellent food that's still child-friendly." The elevator doors opened, but Maya didn't move. "Elijah, is this a business dinner or something else?" His expression revealed nothing of his thoughts. "Does it matter?" "Yes," Maya said firmly. "It does." Elijah considered her for a moment. "I enjoy your company, Maya. I'd like to spend time with you outside the office. If that makes you uncomfortable, we can certainly keep our relationship strictly professional." "It's not that," Maya said quickly. "It's just, I have Zoe to consider in everything I do. And you're my boss. It's complicated." "Life usually is," Elijah replied. "Think about it. The invitation stands." As the elevator doors closed between them, Maya found herself more confused than ever. Was Elijah interested in her romantically, or was this simply a mentorship gesture from a boss pleased with his employees' success? That evening, as she bathed Zoe and prepared dinner in their small apartment, Maya considered Elijah's invitation. The past months had transformed her life in ways she could never have anticipated. She had gone from struggling single mother to respected professional with a promising career path. Her financial situation had stabilized. She'd even started a modest savings account. All because she had accidentally gotten into Elijah Morgan's car. She owed him her gratitude, certainly. But did she owe him more? And what did she want from this relationship that had begun so strangely? Maya's friend Tamika came over later that evening to share a cup of tea after Zoe was asleep. Maya had met Tamika at a community center parenting class during her pregnancy, and they had supported each other through the challenges of new motherhood. "Girl, you're overthinking this," Tamika said after Maya explained her dilemma. "The man asked you to dinner, not to marry him." "But he's my boss," Maya protested. "What if it gets awkward? What if it affects my job?" Tamika gave her a knowing look. Is that really what you're worried about? Or are you scared of letting someone new into your life? And Zoe's? The question hit closer to home than Maya wanted to admit. Since becoming pregnant, she had focused entirely on survival and creating stability for her daughter. Romance hadn't even been on her radar. I barely know him, Maya said. So get to know him, Tamika replied with a shrug. That's what dinner is for. Later, after Tamika had gone home, Maya stood in Zoe's doorway watching her daughter sleep peacefully. The tiny apartment that had once felt like a step down from where she had hoped to be now felt like a safe harbor. She had created this stability for Zoe through her own determination and hard work, but also because Elijah Morgan had seen something in her worth investing in. Perhaps it was time to trust her own judgment as much as he had trusted his. The next morning, Maya stopped by Elijah's office before her first meeting. About dinner, she said, standing in his doorway. Friday works for me. For us, she amended, thinking of Zoe. Elijah looked up from his computer, his expression warming. I'm glad to hear it. I'll make reservations for 7. As Maya turned to leave, he added, and Maya? This isn't a business dinner. She met his gaze steadily. I didn't think it was. Walking back to her office, Maya felt a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. Whatever was developing between her and Elijah, friendship, mentorship, or something more, she had decided to face it directly rather than hiding behind excuses of professional boundaries. Life had taught her that sometimes the biggest risks led to the most unexpected rewards. The restaurant Elijah had chosen was an elegant bistro in a converted brownstone, its atmosphere sophisticated yet welcoming. Despite his wealth and status, Elijah seemed to prefer places with character rather than flashy establishments where people went to be seen. Maya arrived with Zoe precisely at 7, feeling both nervous and excited. She had agonized over what to wear before settling on a simple blue dress that made her feel confident without being overdressed. Elijah was already waiting, rising from his table as they approached. You look lovely, he said, his eyes taking in Maya's appearance with obvious appreciation. Thank you, Maya replied, suddenly shy. She adjusted Zoe on her hip. I hope it's really okay that I brought her. Of course, Elijah said, reaching out to touch Zoe's hand. To Maya's surprise, her normally cautious daughter grabbed his finger with a delighted gurgle. I specifically requested a table where a high chair wouldn't block the aisle. Sure enough, a wooden high chair was already positioned at their table, along with a small basket of soft toys suitable for a baby. The thoughtfulness of this gesture touched Maya deeply. Once they were seated and Zoe was contentedly exploring the toys, an awkward silence fell between them. Outside the familiar context of work, Maya realized how little she actually knew about Elijah on a personal level. I don't think I've ever seen you in anything but business attire, she commented, noting his casual button-down shirt and lack of tie. I do occasionally take off the armor, he replied with a small smile. Though not as often as I probably should. Their server arrived with menus and took their drink orders, sparkling water for Maya and a glass of red wine for Elijah. So, Maya said after the server left, we've established this isn't a business dinner. What is it then? Elijah considered her question seriously. I thought we might get to know each other better outside the constraints of the office. No agendas, no proposals to review. Just 2 people having dinner, Maya supplied. With a very charming third wheel, Elijah added, glancing at Zoe, who was now happily banging a soft block on the high chair tray. The simple acknowledgement of the reality, that Maya and Zoe were a package deal, eased some of the tension Maya had been carrying. Whatever this evening was or might become, Elijah clearly understood that her daughter would always be her priority. As they ordered and began to eat, the conversation flowed more easily. They discovered shared interests in history and architecture, and a mutual love of old movies that surprised them both. Casablanca is a masterpiece, Elijah insisted when Maya mentioned it was her favorite film. I watched it with my mother when I was a teenager, Maya said, her voice softening at the memory. She loved classic films. Said they had a depth modern movies often lack. She sounds like a wise woman, Elijah observed. She was, Maya agreed. She raised me alone after my father left when I was 6. Worked 2 jobs most of my life, but still made time for movie nights and helping with homework. Elijah's expression grew thoughtful. She'd be proud of you, I think. Of the mother you've become to Zoe. The unexpected comment brought tears to Maya's eyes. She blinked them away quickly, focusing on cutting her food into smaller pieces. What about your parents? She asked, deflecting attention from her emotional response. A shadow passed over Elijah's face. My father was difficult. My mother did her best, but she was scared of him. We all were. The simple statement explained so much about the reserved, cautious man across from her. Is that why you left home at 17? Elijah looked surprised that she had remembered this detail from their conversation months ago. Yes. After a particularly bad night, I packed what I could carry and never went back. That must have been terrifying, Maya said softly. Less terrifying than staying, Elijah replied. I lived in my car for a while, worked whatever jobs I could find. Eventually got a scholarship to state college. The rest, as they say, is history. Maya studied his face, seeing beyond the successful businessman to the scared teenager who had found the courage to forge his own path. We're not so different, you and I, she observed. Both making our way without much of a safety net. Perhaps that's why, Elijah began, then stopped himself. Why what? Maya prompted. He smiled slightly. Why I felt I knew something about you that day in the car. Even before we spoke. The moment hung between them, charged with unspoken connection. Then Zoe dropped her sippy cup with a clatter, breaking the spell. As the evening continued, they shared stories from their lives, carefully navigating around the more painful topics. Maya described her college years, working nights to pay tuition. Elijah told her about his first failed business venture and the lessons he had learned from it. By the time dessert arrived, a chocolate cake that Zoe eyed with undisguised interest, Maya felt she was seeing the real Elijah Morgan for the first time. Beneath the confident exterior was a man who understood struggle and resilience intimately. May I? Elijah asked, gesturing to the small bite of cake on his fork and then to Zoe. Sure, Maya said, surprised by the request. She loves sweet things. Gets that from me, I'm afraid. Carefully, Elijah offered the tiny taste to Zoe, who grabbed his hand and guided the fork to her mouth with startling precision. Her eyes widened with delight at the chocolate flavor. I think we have a chocolate fan, Elijah laughed, the sound warm and genuine. Maya watched the interaction with a mixture of emotions she couldn't quite untangle. Seeing Elijah connect with her daughter created a tug of longing she hadn't expected, not just for companionship for herself, but for a father figure for Zoe. Later, as Elijah drove them home, Maya's mind raced with questions about where this evening might lead. She hadn't dated since before Zoe was born, and the prospect both thrilled and terrified her. Elijah pulled up in front of her apartment building and came around to open her door. As Maya stepped out with a sleeping Zoe in her arms, she felt suddenly self-conscious about her modest apartment complex. Thank you for dinner, she said. I had a wonderful time. So did I, Elijah replied, his voice low to avoid waking Zoe. Let me walk you to your door. The offer was simple but felt significant. Maya nodded, leading the way up the cracked concrete steps to the building's entrance. The lobby light was flickering again, casting uneven shadows as they walked to the elevator. Maya was acutely aware of the building's shortcomings. The faded carpet, the lingering smell of someone's spicy cooking, the graffiti partially scrubbed from the mailboxes. But if Elijah noticed these details, he gave no indication. His focus remained entirely on Maya and Zoe as they rode the elevator to the fourth floor in comfortable silence. At her apartment door, Maya shifted Zoe carefully to free one hand for her keys. Before she could juggle her purse, Elijah gently took the keys from her. Allow me, he said. The simple gesture, helping her with a door while her arms were full, was something Maya had managed without for so long that its sudden presence made her throat tighten with unexpected emotion. Elijah unlocked the door but didn't step inside. Instead, he handed the keys back to Maya with a smile that seemed to hold a question. Would you like to do this again? He asked. Perhaps next weekend? Maya looked up at him, this man who had somehow walked into her life through a chance encounter. I would, she said simply. Good night, Maya, Elijah said, his hand briefly touching her shoulder. Good night, Zoe, he added in a whisper to the sleeping baby. As Maya watched him walk back toward the elevator, she felt something shifting inside her. Walls she had built for protection beginning to develop the smallest of cracks. So you're dating the boss, Diane, one of the senior financial analysts, commented casually as she joined Maya at the coffee station Monday morning. Maya nearly spilled her coffee. Excuse me? Diane raised an eyebrow. You and Elijah were seen at Bellini's on Friday night. News travels fast around here. Maya carefully stirred cream into her coffee, buying time to compose her thoughts. She and Elijah had shared one dinner. Could that even be called dating? And how was it already office gossip? We had dinner, she said finally, keeping her voice neutral. With my daughter present. Diane's expression softened slightly. Look, I'm not judging. Elijah is an attractive, wealthy man. Single. It's natural. It's not what you're thinking, Maya protested, though she wasn't entirely sure what it was herself. Just be careful, Diane advised, lowering her voice. Elijah hasn't had the best track record with relationships. His ex-wife. I'm aware he's divorced, Maya interrupted, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Diane gave her a look that seemed part concern, part curiosity. Did he tell you why? Before Maya could respond, Carol appeared in the break room doorway. Maya, the community outreach team is waiting in your office for the 9 o'clock. Grateful for the interruption, Maya nodded. Thanks, Carol. I'm coming now. As she hurried to her meeting, Maya tried to push the conversation with Diane from her mind. Office gossip was inevitable in any workplace. She wouldn't let it distract her from her responsibilities. But throughout the day she noticed the glances, the whispers that stopped when she entered a room. By afternoon, the tension of being the subject of speculation had given her a pounding headache. To her relief, Elijah was out of the office at meetings all day. She wasn't sure she could have maintained her professional composure if forced to interact with him while hyper-aware of the rumors circulating about them. When Maya picked up Zoe from daycare at the end of the day, the center's director, Miss Patel, pulled her aside. Zoe had a wonderful day, she said warmly. And I wanted to personally thank you for bringing the Community Empowerment Initiative to Westside. My sister lives in Riverdale Heights, and your mobile banking program will make such a difference there. The genuine gratitude in the woman's eyes reminded Maya why she was here, not for office politics or potential romance, but to make a real difference in people's lives. Thank you for saying that, Maya replied. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget the bigger picture. Miss Patel smiled. You've accomplished so much in such a short time. Mr. Morgan made the right choice bringing you on board. The comment, though well-intentioned, hit a nerve after Diane's insinuations earlier. Had Elijah hired her because he saw her potential, or had there been other motivations from the beginning? That night, after putting Zoe to bed, Maya sat on her small balcony with a cup of tea, trying to sort through her confused feelings. The dinner with Elijah had been wonderful, comfortable yet exciting, the conversation flowing naturally. She had glimpsed the man behind the successful businessman and found herself drawn to both versions of him. But now, with rumors swirling, doubts crept in. Was she risking her professional reputation? Was she setting herself up for heartbreak? And how would any of this affect Zoe, who was already showing attachment to Elijah after just one dinner? Her phone chimed with a text message. Elijah. I hope your Monday wasn't too difficult. People talk. I'm sorry if it's made things uncomfortable for you. Maya stared at the message, surprised that he was already aware of the office gossip. She typed carefully, It's been interesting. I didn't realize dinner would become breaking news. His response came quickly. Westside isn't much different from a small town in some ways. I should have warned you. After a moment's hesitation, Maya asked the question foremost in her mind. Does it bother you? The talk. There was a longer pause before his reply. Only if it bothers you. I've learned to ignore what others think of my personal life. Maya considered his words. She had spent too much of her life worrying about judgment. From her professors when she became pregnant, from potential employers when they realized she was a single mother, from other parents who noticed her worn clothes and budget stroller. She typed, I care more about doing my job well than what people whisper about in the break room. His response made her smile. That's one of the many things I admire about you, Maya Johnson. They texted for another hour, the conversation shifting from office politics to books they had recently read, to Zoe's latest developmental milestone. When Maya finally said goodnight, her earlier doubts had receded somewhat, replaced by a warm certainty that whatever was developing between them was worth exploring, despite the complications. The next morning, Maya arrived at work determined to focus solely on her responsibilities. She had a full day of meetings with community partners for the mobile banking initiative and couldn't afford to be distracted by office gossip. As she stepped off the elevator, Carol intercepted her with a worried expression. Nathaniel Hargrove is waiting in your office, she said in a low voice. He wants to discuss the community initiative. Maya frowned. Hargrove was one of the board members who had seemed most skeptical during her presentation. Did he say why? Carol shook her head. Just that it was urgent. And Maya. She hesitated. He's known to be very traditional in his views. About everything. The warning was clear. Maya straightened her shoulders and headed to her office, where a gray-haired man in an expensive suit was examining the framed photo of Zoe on her desk. Mr. Hargrove, Maya said, extending her hand. This is an unexpected pleasure. He turned, his expression unreadable as he shook her hand briefly. Ms. Johnson. Thank you for making time for me. Of course. Maya gestured to the chairs by her small conference table rather than taking a seat behind her desk. A subtle power move her mother had taught her. Never let someone intimidate you in your own space. Hargrove sat, adjusting his tie. I'll get straight to the point. I have concerns about the direction of the Community Empowerment Division. Maya nodded. I'm happy to address any specific questions about our initiatives. My concern is more about leadership, Hargrove said, his eyes sharp. Specifically the appearance of impropriety. Maya kept her expression neutral, though her heart began to pound. I'm not sure I understand. I think you do, Hargrove countered. Your relationship with Elijah Morgan raises questions about your qualifications for this position. The implication stung. Maya took a careful breath before responding. Mr. Hargrove, I was hired based on my education and experience. My master's degree in business analytics and my understanding of the communities we're trying to serve make me uniquely qualified for this role. Perhaps, Hargrove conceded. But perception matters in business, Ms. Johnson. When a young, relatively inexperienced woman is suddenly promoted to director level and then seen dining intimately with the CEO, people draw conclusions. Maya felt heat rising in her cheeks, but kept her voice steady. First, Mr. Hargrove, my dinner with Mr. Morgan was hardly intimate. My infant daughter was present throughout. Second, my work should speak for itself. The mobile banking initiative has already garnered positive press and community support. Your work is promising, Hargrove admitted, which is why I'm concerned about anything that might undermine it. Banking is a conservative industry. Our clients and partners expect a certain decorum. Maya leaned forward slightly. Mr. Hargrove, with all due respect, it sounds like you're more concerned with outdated perceptions than with the actual success of our programs. Hargrove's eyebrows rose at her directness. I'm concerned with the reputation of this company, Ms. Johnson. A reputation Elijah's father and I spent decades building. The mention of Elijah's father, information Maya hadn't known, momentarily threw her. But she recovered quickly. Then we share the same goal, she said firmly. Because the Community Empowerment Division will enhance Westside's reputation by demonstrating our commitment to serving all communities, not just the wealthy ones. For a long moment Hargrove studied her, his expression calculating. Then he stood abruptly. You're confident. I'll give you that, he said. But confidence doesn't always translate to capability. I'll be watching the performance of your division very closely, Ms. Johnson. I welcome the scrutiny, Maya replied, standing as well. Our results will speak for themselves. After Hargrove left, Maya sank back into her chair, her hands trembling slightly from the confrontation. The implication that she had earned her position through anything other than merit cut deeply. A soft knock at her door made her look up. Elijah stood there, his expression concerned. I just passed Nathaniel in the hallway, he said. He looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. Despite her lingering upset, Maya smiled at the description. That might have been my fault. Elijah stepped into the office, closing the door behind him. What happened? Maya hesitated, unsure how much to share. But the genuine concern in Elijah's eyes decided her. He came to express his concerns about my leadership, she said. Specifically, that our dinner might create the perception that I didn't earn my position. Elijah's face darkened. Nathaniel oversteps. Your qualifications were clear to everyone on the hiring committee. Were they? Maya asked quietly. Or did they just defer to your judgment? Elijah looked startled by the question. Maya, I didn't unilaterally decide to hire you. The committee reviewed your resume, your references. Your credentials were impeccable. But you championed me, Maya pressed. After meeting me for all of an hour. Elijah sat in the chair Hargrove had vacated. Yes, I did. Because in that hour, I saw more potential and genuine commitment than I've seen in many executives I've known for years. His sincerity was difficult to doubt, but Maya needed clarity. And our dinner? The rumors? Does that complicate things for you professionally? I've been running this company for 15 years, Elijah said. I've earned the right to have dinner with whomever I choose without justifying it to Nathaniel Hargrove or anyone else. The confidence in his statement was undeniably attractive. But Maya had Zoe to consider, a career to protect. I can't afford complications, Elijah, she said honestly. This job, this opportunity, it's everything to me and Zoe. I know, Elijah replied. And I would never do anything to jeopardize that. If you think we should keep our relationship strictly professional, I'll respect that decision. Maya studied his face, reading the sincerity there. And something else, a vulnerability that he rarely allowed to show. I don't think that's what I want, she admitted. But I need to be careful. For Zoe's sake as well as my own. Elijah nodded. Then we'll be careful. Take things slowly. See where this leads without letting it interfere with our professional responsibilities. The reasonable approach reassured Maya. I can work with that. Elijah smiled. Good. Now, I believe you have a meeting with the community partners from Riverdale Heights in 15 minutes. Don't let Nathaniel Hargrove distract you from the important work you're doing. As he left, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever was developing between her and Elijah, and whatever obstacles they might face, she wouldn't let it derail the opportunity she had been given to make a real difference through her work. With fresh determination, she gathered her materials for the meeting, pushing thoughts of office politics and budding romance to the back of her mind. For now the work came first. The rest would sort itself out in time. 6 months had passed since Maya's chance encounter with Elijah's car in the rain. Spring had given way to summer, and now autumn painted the city with vibrant reds and golds. In that time, Maya's Community Empowerment Division had launched 3 successful initiatives, including the mobile banking program that now served 5 underbanked neighborhoods. Zoe had celebrated her first birthday with a small party at the park near their apartment. Maya had invited only a few people, Tamika and her son, Carol from the office, and Elijah. Watching Elijah help Zoe blow out her single candle, Maya had felt a completeness she hadn't thought possible a year ago. Their relationship had developed gradually, both of them mindful of the professional boundaries they needed to maintain at work. Weekend outings with Zoe had become a regular occurrence. Visits to the Children's Museum, picnics in the park, even a day trip to the beach during the late summer heat wave. Tonight, however, was different. For the first time, Elijah had invited Maya to his home for dinner. Tamika had offered to babysit Zoe, insisting that Maya needed an adult evening out. He's seen you in mom mode for months, Tamika had said as she helped Maya choose an outfit. Time to remind him you're a woman too. Now, standing outside Elijah's penthouse apartment in the city's most exclusive neighborhood, Maya felt a flutter of nervousness. She smoothed the skirt of her dark green dress, a splurge she had justified as an investment in her professional wardrobe, and pressed the doorbell. Elijah opened the door himself, dressed in casual slacks and a light sweater that softened his usually formal appearance. You look beautiful, he said, his eyes appreciative as he welcomed her inside. Maya had expected luxury, but the reality of Elijah's home surprised her. While undeniably expensive, the space was warm and inviting with comfortable furniture and walls lined with books. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city skyline, now glowing in the early evening light. This isn't what I imagined, Maya admitted as Elijah offered her a glass of wine. What did you expect? Marble statues and uncomfortable furniture no one actually sits on? He asked with a smile. Something like that, Maya laughed. This feels like a real home. I spend too much time here for it to be uncomfortable, Elijah said. Though I'll admit I had help from a designer. My own taste runs more to function than style. He led her to the kitchen, where something delicious simmered on the stove. You cook? Maya asked, genuinely surprised. Another survival skill from my early days, Elijah explained, stirring the pot. Ramen gets old quickly when you're living on your own at 17. Maya leaned against the counter watching him work. You never talk much about that time. Elijah was quiet for a moment, focusing on the food. It wasn't pleasant, he said finally. But it shaped me. Taught me resilience. Like Zoe has shaped me, Maya observed. Elijah looked up, his expression softening. Exactly. Our challenges become part of who we are. The moment felt intimate in a way their previous times together hadn't. Perhaps because they were alone, without Zoe as a buffer, or perhaps because they were in Elijah's private space rather than a restaurant or public park. Dinner was served on the balcony, with the city spread before them like a carpet of lights. The food was simple but delicious, a hearty pasta dish with crusty bread and a fresh salad. I can't believe you made this yourself, Maya said, accepting a second helping. You're full of surprises, Elijah Morgan. I hope good ones, he replied. As they ate, their conversation flowed easily from work projects to books they'd recently read. Maya shared stories of Zoe's latest adventures in walking, while Elijah described his plans to expand the Community Empowerment Division to other cities if Maya's programs continued their success. I've been meaning to ask, Maya said as they finished dessert. a rich chocolate cake that reminded her of their first dinner together. How did you become interested in community banking? It doesn't seem like the typical focus for someone in your position. Elijah was quiet for a moment, swirling the last of his wine. My mother, he said finally. After she left my father, she struggled financially. No credit history, no banking relationship of her own. Predatory lenders were her only option when emergencies arose. The personal connection to Maya's work surprised her. You never mentioned that before. It's not something I talk about often, Elijah admitted. But when you proposed the mobile banking initiative, I saw a chance to create the kind of resource that might have changed her life. Maya reached across the table and took his hand. Thank you for sharing that with me. His fingers tightened around hers. You make it easy to share things I usually keep to myself. After dinner, they moved to the living room sofa with cups of coffee. The city lights twinkled beyond the windows, creating a cozy intimacy in the dimly lit room. I should probably call and check on Zoe, Maya said, reaching for her phone. Of course, Elijah replied. Use the study if you'd like some privacy. He pointed to a door off the main living area. The small gesture, understanding her need to connect with her daughter even during their evening together, touched Maya deeply. She made the call quickly, reassured by Tamika's report that Zoe was sleeping peacefully after a busy day of play. When she returned to the living room, Elijah was standing by the windows looking out at the city. He turned as she approached, his expression thoughtful. Everything okay at home? He asked. Perfect, Maya said. Zoe's sound asleep. Elijah smiled. She's an amazing child. You've done a remarkable job with her, Maya. Thank you, Maya said softly. That means a lot to me. He moved closer, his eyes holding hers. You mean a lot to me, he said simply. The words hung between them, honest and unadorned. Maya felt the last of her hesitation falling away. She had spent months getting to know this man, his integrity, his kindness, his quiet strength. In all that time, he had never once made her feel like her status as a single mother was a burden or a complication. You mean a lot to me too, she replied. Elijah reached out, his hand gently touching her cheek. May I kiss you, Maya Johnson? The formal request made her smile. Yes, you may, Elijah Morgan. The kiss was gentle at first, a tentative exploration that quickly deepened as months of restrained attraction found expression. When they finally pulled apart, Maya felt slightly dazed, her heart racing. I've wanted to do that for a very long time, Elijah admitted, his voice rough with emotion. Why did you wait? Maya asked. Because I wanted to be sure, he replied. Sure that what I felt was real, not just attraction. Sure that you were ready. Sure that we could build something that wouldn't complicate your life or Zoe's. The thoughtfulness behind his restraint only made Maya more certain of her feelings for him. This was a man who considered consequences, who didn't rush into anything without careful thought. And are you sure now? She asked. Elijah's answer was another kiss, this one leaving no doubt about his certainty. Later, as they sat close together on the sofa, talking quietly about hopes and dreams neither had shared with anyone else, Maya felt a sense of rightness that had been missing from her life for too long. It's getting late, she said reluctantly, glancing at her watch. I should get home. I'll drive you, Elijah offered immediately. You don't have to. I want to, he interrupted gently. It's not a question of necessity, Maya. The simple statement summed up so much about how their relationship had evolved. What had begun as Elijah helping her out of necessity, offering her a job when she desperately needed one, had become something chosen freely by both of them. As they drove through the quiet streets, Maya's hand held securely in his, she thought about the journey that had brought them here. A mistaken car door. A rainy day. A chance encounter that had changed everything. What are you thinking about? Elijah asked, glancing over at her pensive expression. How sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the best outcomes, Maya replied with a smile. When they reached her apartment building, Elijah insisted on walking her to her door. Outside her apartment, he kissed her again, a gentle goodnight that held promise without demand. When can I see you again? He asked. Both of you, he amended, including Zoe in his question. How about Sunday? Maya suggested. Zoe and I usually go to the farmer's market in the morning. Sunday sounds perfect, Elijah agreed. As Maya watched him walk away, she felt a certainty she hadn't expected. Whatever challenges might lie ahead, office politics, different backgrounds, the complexities of building a relationship while raising a child, they would face them together. Inside, she found Tamika dozing on the couch. Her friend woke as Maya entered, instantly alert for details. Well? Tamika demanded in a whisper. How was it? Maya couldn't contain her smile. It was. She searched for the right word. Promising. Tamika rolled her eyes. Girl, your face says a lot more than promising. Maya laughed softly. Fine. It was wonderful. He's wonderful. I told you so, Tamika said smugly. Now details. And don't you dare leave anything out. As Maya filled her friend in on the evening, she felt lighter than she had in years. The walls she had built around her heart, necessary protection during the difficult times, were finally coming down, brick by careful brick. The autumn days grew shorter as Maya and Elijah's relationship deepened. At work, they maintained their professional boundaries, but evenings and weekends increasingly found them together, often with Zoe, who had developed a clear attachment to Elijah. Today they were at the park near Maya's apartment, enjoying the crisp November air. Zoe toddled between them on the leaf-strewn path, each tiny hand held securely by an adult. 1, 2, 3, up you go. Elijah counted, swinging Zoe gently into the air as she squealed with delight. Maya watched them, her heart full. Over the past weeks, she had seen a side of Elijah few others witnessed. Playful, patient, genuinely interested in Zoe's development. He read the same picture book 10 times without complaint if Zoe demanded it, and had learned all her favorite foods and games. Again? Zoe demanded, her vocabulary expanding rapidly these days. Again please, Maya corrected gently. Peace. Zoe added, looking up at Elijah with adoring eyes. Well, since you asked so nicely, Elijah laughed, swinging her up again. They continued their walk, eventually stopping at a playground where Zoe could explore the toddler-safe equipment. As she played in the sand with a bucket and shovel, Elijah and Maya sat on a nearby bench, close enough to watch her but allowing her the independence she craved. I've been thinking, Elijah said, his tone more serious than it had been all afternoon. That sounds ominous, Maya teased, though she felt a flutter of nervousness. Elijah smiled, taking her hand. Nothing bad, I promise. I was just thinking it might be time to make some changes. What kind of changes? Maya asked cautiously. For one, I'd like us to stop pretending at work that we're just colleagues, Elijah said. The whole office knows we're seeing each other anyway. Maya nodded slowly. While they had been discreet, their relationship wasn't exactly a secret. And the other changes? Elijah seemed to choose his next words carefully. Your lease is up next month, isn't it? You mentioned having to renew soon. Yes, Maya confirmed, wondering where this was heading. I thought perhaps you and Zoe might consider moving, Elijah suggested. To a better neighborhood. Somewhere with a good preschool nearby for when Zoe's ready. Maya stiffened slightly. Are you offering to help me find a new apartment? Elijah hesitated. Actually, I was thinking you might consider moving in with me. The proposal, though not entirely unexpected given the direction of their relationship, still caught Maya off guard. Elijah, that's a big step. I know, he acknowledged. And if you're not ready, I understand completely. But I wanted you to know that I'm ready. That I'm serious about us, about you and Zoe. Maya looked over at her daughter, happily filling and dumping her bucket in the sandbox. It's not just about me being ready, she said quietly. It's about what's best for Zoe. I've thought about that too, Elijah assured her. My building has other families with young children. There's a park across the street. The school district is excellent. Those are all good things, Maya agreed. But Zoe's stability is about more than logistics. It's about relationships. Consistency. Elijah nodded, understanding in his eyes. You're worried about her getting attached to me and then if things don't work out. She's already attached to you, Maya said softly. That's what concerns me. If we move in together and things don't work out, it won't just be my heart that gets broken. I would never do anything to hurt either of you, Elijah promised. But I understand your caution. They sat in silence for a moment, watching Zoe play. Finally Maya spoke. Can I think about it? This isn't a no, just, I need some time. Of course, Elijah said immediately. Take all the time you need. There's no rush. The rest of the afternoon passed pleasantly, but Maya's mind kept returning to Elijah's proposal. The practical benefits were obvious. A safer neighborhood, more space, financial security. But relationships weren't built on practicalities alone. And while she loved Elijah, a truth she had admitted to herself if not yet to him, love wasn't always enough to overcome real-world challenges. That evening, after Elijah had gone home and Zoe was asleep, Maya called Tamika for advice. Girl, he asked you to move in? That's huge. Tamika exclaimed. I know, Maya sighed. And part of me wants to say yes immediately. But you're worried about Zoe, Tamika finished for her. And about rushing things, Maya added. We've only been seeing each other for a few months. But you've known him longer, Tamika pointed out. And it's not like he's some random guy. You've seen how he is at work, how he treats people, how he is with Zoe. That's true, Maya conceded. Look, Tamika said gently, I'm the first person to tell a woman to be careful, especially with a child involved. But Elijah has shown nothing but respect for you both. At some point you have to decide if you're being cautious or just afraid. The question lingered in Maya's mind long after she and Tamika had ended their call. Was her hesitation warranted caution or simply fear of taking a chance? The next morning at work, Maya was distracted during her team meeting, her thoughts still circling Elijah's proposal. As she returned to her office, Carol intercepted her with a worried expression. Maya, there's someone waiting to see you, she said in a low voice. She doesn't have an appointment, but she was insistent. Who is it? Maya asked, frowning. She says her name is Vanessa Morgan, Carol replied. She's Elijah's ex-wife. Maya felt a cold shock run through her. In all their conversations, Elijah had mentioned his ex-wife only in passing, never by name, never with details about their relationship beyond the fact that it had ended badly. Did she say what she wants? Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Carol shook her head. Just that it's personal and important. Maya took a deep breath. Where is she? In the small conference room, Carol said. I didn't want to put her in your office. Thank you, Maya said, grateful for Carol's discretion. I'll see her now. The woman waiting in the conference room was elegantly dressed, her blonde hair swept into a perfect chignon. She stood as Maya entered, appraising her with cool gray eyes. Miss Johnson, she said, not extending her hand. Thank you for seeing me without an appointment. Mrs. Morgan, Maya replied, deciding to match the woman's formality. How can I help you? It's Miss Parker now actually, the woman corrected. I reverted to my maiden name after the divorce. Maya nodded, waiting for her to continue. Vanessa studied her for a moment longer. You're not what I expected, she said finally. And what did you expect? Maya asked, keeping her tone neutral. From Elijah's usual type? Someone more decorative, less substantial. Vanessa gestured to the chairs. May we sit? This might take a few minutes. Maya sat, her guard firmly up. What exactly brings you here, Miss Parker? Concern, Vanessa replied, smoothing her skirt as she took a seat. For you, believe it or not. And for your child. Maya stiffened. My daughter is not a topic I'm willing to discuss with you. Fair enough, Vanessa conceded. Then let's discuss Elijah. How much has he told you about our marriage? About why it ended? Enough, Maya said, unwilling to admit that Elijah had shared very few details. Vanessa's smile was knowing. I doubt that. Elijah is intensely private about his personal life. It's one of his many, challenging qualities. If you've come here to badmouth your ex-husband, Maya began. I've come to warn you, Vanessa interrupted. Before you get in too deep. Before your child becomes attached to a man who is fundamentally incapable of maintaining a healthy relationship. Maya fought to maintain her composure. I appreciate your concern, but it's misplaced. My relationship with Elijah is not your business. It became my business when I heard he's asked you to move in with him, Vanessa replied. The same pattern all over again. The revelation that Vanessa somehow knew about Elijah's proposal sent a chill through Maya. How did you? It's a small world at the top, Ms. Johnson, Vanessa said dismissively. Elijah and I still share some social connections. Maya stood, her patience wearing thin. I think this conversation is over. He wasn't always wealthy, you know, Vanessa continued as if Maya hadn't spoken. When we met, he was just starting out, hungry for success. I believed in him, supported him as he built West Side from nothing. And once he had everything he wanted, he changed. Despite her better judgment, Maya found herself asking, changed how? Vanessa's expression hardened. He became obsessed with his work. Every hour, every day. When I finally gave him an ultimatum, me or the company, he chose the company without hesitation. The pain in the woman's voice seemed genuine, but Maya was wary of manipulation. Relationships end for many reasons. That doesn't make either person a villain. No, Vanessa agreed. But promising someone the world and then withdrawing completely once you have what you want? That does make you something of a villain in my book. Maya crossed her arms. If you're trying to poison my relationship with Elijah, I have to wonder why. It's been years since your divorce. I'm trying to spare another woman from what I went through, Vanessa said, rising to her feet. Elijah doesn't love people, Ms. Johnson. He collects them. Adds them to his life like acquisitions. When you and your daughter move in, you'll be living in his world, playing by his rules. And the moment you want something he isn't prepared to give, time, attention, compromise, you'll discover just how cold he can be. Maya held the woman's gaze steadily. I appreciate your concern, but I know Elijah. The man you're describing isn't the one I've come to care for. Vanessa gathered her designer purse, her expression softening slightly. Everyone thinks they're the exception. I did too. She pulled out a business card and placed it on the table. When you need someone who understands, call me. After Vanessa left, Maya sat alone in the conference room, her mind reeling. The encounter had left her unsettled, raising questions she hadn't considered. By the time she returned to her office, Maya had decided not to mention the visit to Elijah immediately. She needed time to process what she had heard, to separate potential truth from possible manipulation. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and phone calls, but Maya's thoughts kept returning to Vanessa's warnings. When Elijah texted to suggest dinner that evening, Maya claimed a headache and promised to call him the next day. That night, after putting Zoe to bed, Maya sat on her small balcony with a cup of tea, trying to sort through her confusion. Was Vanessa telling the truth about Elijah's pattern of behavior? Or was she a bitter ex-wife trying to sabotage his current relationship? More importantly, was Maya letting a stranger's warning override what she knew of Elijah from her own experience? The next morning, Maya dropped Zoe at daycare and headed straight to Elijah's office. His assistant looked surprised to see her. He's in a meeting with the international team, she explained. But he should be finished in about 20 minutes. I'll wait, Maya said, taking a seat in the reception area. When Elijah emerged from his conference room, his face brightened at the sight of her. Maya, this is a nice surprise. Can we talk? She asked. Privately? Something in her tone must have alerted him that this wasn't a casual visit. He nodded, gesturing toward his office. Of course. Once inside with the door closed, Maya didn't waste time. Your ex-wife came to see me yesterday. Elijah's expression shifted from surprise to concern. Vanessa? Why would she? He stopped, his jaw tightening. What did she want? To warn me about you, Maya said simply. She seems to think I'm making a terrible mistake by being involved with you. Elijah moved to the window, his back to Maya as he processed this information. When he turned around, his expression was carefully controlled. What exactly did she tell you? He asked. That you're incapable of maintaining a healthy relationship. That you're obsessed with work. That once you get what you want from people, you withdraw. Maya watched his reaction closely. She said when she gave you an ultimatum, her or the company, you chose the company without hesitation. Elijah was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed, gesturing to the sitting area in his office. Let's sit down. This might take a while. Once they were seated, Elijah leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Vanessa and I met when I was 26, just starting to have some success with Westside. She was beautiful, sophisticated, everything I wasn't. I couldn't believe she was interested in me. The vulnerability in his voice surprised Maya. We got married quickly, Elijah continued. Too quickly. I was working all hours trying to grow the company. Vanessa wanted a certain lifestyle, social events, travel, the trappings of wealth. But we were still building then. I couldn't give her what she wanted and do what needed to be done for the business. She said she supported you while you built the company, Maya pointed out. Elijah nodded. She did at first. But her idea of support was introducing me to her wealthy friends as potential investors, hosting dinner parties to build connections. Valuable, yes, but she viewed it as an investment that should pay off in a particular way. And it didn't? Not on her timeline, Elijah said. By our third anniversary, Westside was finally becoming profitable. I wanted to reinvest everything back into growth. Vanessa wanted a bigger house in a better neighborhood, luxury vacations, all the external signs of success. He paused, running a hand through his hair. The ultimatum wasn't me or the company, as she put it. It was, give me the lifestyle I deserve or I'll leave. I couldn't do what she wanted without compromising the future of the business and everyone who depended on it. Maya considered his words. So you chose the company. I chose not to be financially irresponsible to maintain a marriage that was already failing, Elijah corrected. We wanted fundamentally different things, Maya. It wasn't about love versus work. It was about values. The sincerity in his voice rang true, but Maya needed more. Why didn't you ever tell me about any of this before? Elijah looked genuinely regretful. I should have. It's not a period of my life I'm proud of. I made mistakes too, working too much, not communicating clearly, assuming money would eventually solve our problems. He reached for her hand. But with you it's different. You understand that work has meaning beyond the money it brings. You value what you do because it helps people, not because of status or lifestyle. Maya wanted to believe him, but doubt had crept in. Elijah, your ex-wife somehow knew you asked me to move in with you. How is that possible? Elijah frowned. I mentioned it to Nathaniel Hargrove when he asked about our new community center location. His wife and Vanessa are still friends. That's probably how she found out. The explanation was plausible, but it highlighted how interconnected Elijah's world was, a world Maya was only beginning to understand. What happens if I say yes? Maya asked quietly. If Zoe and I move in, will your work take precedence again? Will we become another obligation you manage? Hurt flashed across Elijah's face. Is that what you think of me? After all these months? I don't know what to think, Maya admitted. You're asking me to make a huge change, to trust you completely with my future and my daughters. Then your ex-wife appears with warnings that touch on my deepest fears. Elijah stood and paced the office. Maya, I can't promise I'll never work late or take calls on weekends. What I do is important, to me, to our employees, to the communities we serve. But I can promise that you and Zoe will never be an afterthought. He knelt in front of her chair, taking both her hands in his. I love you, Maya. I love Zoe. I want to build a life with you both, not because it's convenient or because you fit some ideal image, but because you make me better, happier, more complete. The declaration of love, his first, brought tears to Maya's eyes. I love you too, she whispered. That's why this matters so much. Then trust that, Elijah urged. Trust what you know of me from your own experience, not from someone who knew a different man in different circumstances years ago. Maya searched his face, seeing sincerity in his eyes. But something still held her back. I need time, she said finally. I need to be sure this is right for Zoe. For all of us. Elijah nodded, disappointment clear in his expression but acceptance there too. I understand. And I'll wait however long it takes. We don't have to rush this. As Maya left his office, her emotions were in turmoil. She loved Elijah, that much she was certain of. But Vanessa's visit had tapped into her deepest insecurities. Was she risking too much? Could she truly trust that Elijah wouldn't change once the newness of their relationship faded? Only time would tell. And time, at least, was something they had. December arrived with a dusting of snow and holiday decorations throughout the city. 6 weeks had passed since Vanessa's visit, and while Maya had not given Elijah a definitive answer about moving in together, their relationship had continued to deepen. Today, Maya watched as Elijah and Zoe decorated a small Christmas tree in her apartment. Zoe, now nearly 18 months old and increasingly verbal, supervised the placement of each ornament with surprising authority. No, dear, she directed, pointing to a different branch than the one Elijah had chosen for a glittery star. Here? Elijah asked patiently, moving the ornament. Yes. Zoe clapped her hands in approval. Maya smiled at the scene, her heart full. Despite her lingering concerns after Vanessa's visit, she couldn't deny the joy Elijah brought to their lives or the genuine bond he had formed with Zoe. Her apartment lease was up in 2 weeks. She had already received notice that the rent would increase by 15% if she renewed, a significant jump that would strain her budget despite her comfortable salary. The practical decision would be to accept Elijah's offer. But Maya had learned the hard way that practical decisions weren't always the right ones for the heart. What do you think, Mommy? Elijah asked, lifting Zoe so she could place the angel on top of the tree. Does it meet with your approval? It's perfect, Maya said sincerely. The most beautiful tree we've ever had. Later, after Zoe had been put to bed with extra stories from Elijah, they sat together on Maya's worn sofa, enjoying the quiet and the twinkling lights of the tree. I got Zoe's Christmas present today, Elijah said, his arm around Maya's shoulders. I hope you don't mind. What did you get her? Maya asked, curious. A play kitchen, Elijah replied. She seems fascinated by cooking whenever we're in the kitchen together. Maya nodded. She is. She's always trying to help when I'm making dinner. There's something else, Elijah continued, his tone more serious. Something for both of you in a way. But I want to be clear that it's not pressure. Just an option. Maya sat up straighter, watching his face carefully. What is it? Elijah reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope, handing it to her. Inside was a key. It's to a house, he explained as Maya examined it. A brownstone about 15 minutes from both the office and Zoe's daycare. 3 bedrooms, a small backyard. I bought it last month. Maya stared at him in shock. You bought a house? Without telling me? I bought it as an investment property, Elijah clarified quickly. But with you and Zoe in mind. It's not my penthouse, it's a family home in a neighborhood with good schools and parks nearby. I don't understand, Maya said, still holding the key. Are you asking us to move into your investment property? Elijah took her free hand. I'm offering a compromise. I know you have concerns about moving into my space, about Zoe and you fitting into my established life rather than us building something new together. This would be a fresh start for all of us. A home that's ours, not mine, that you're joining. The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched Maya deeply. Elijah had listened to her concerns and found a creative solution that addressed them. You'd sell your penthouse? She asked, surprised. Eventually, Elijah nodded. Or keep it as the investment property instead. The important thing is that we'd be creating our home together, from scratch. Maya turned the key over in her hand, thinking. Can I see it first? She asked with a small smile. Elijah's face lit up. Of course. Tomorrow? I can pick you and Zoe up in the morning. The next day dawned bright and cold, perfect winter weather for their expedition. Zoe was bundled up in her warmest clothes, excited for what Elijah had described to her as a special adventure. The brownstone was on a tree-lined street of similar homes, its red brick facade distinguished by bay windows and a small but well-maintained front garden. As Elijah unlocked the door, Maya felt a flutter of anticipation. Inside, the house was empty of furniture but full of potential. Hardwood floors gleamed in the winter sunlight streaming through tall windows. The kitchen was modern but warm, with wooden cabinets and stone countertops. Upstairs, the 3 bedrooms were spacious and bright. This would be Zoe's room, Elijah explained, showing them a bedroom with a window seat overlooking the backyard. And there's a small office space off the main bedroom for those times when either of us needs to work from home. Zoe ran from room to room, her excitement contagious. Our house? She asked, looking up at Maya with hopeful eyes. Maybe, baby, Maya replied, not wanting to commit before she was certain. The backyard was small but perfect for a child, fenced with a patch of grass and room for a swing set. Maya could imagine summer barbecues, birthday parties, lazy Sunday mornings with coffee on the small patio. What do you think? Elijah asked as they completed the tour, his expression hopeful but restrained. Maya took in the beautiful home, Zoe's obvious delight, and Elijah's thoughtful planning. This wasn't a man trying to fit her and Zoe into his existing life. This was a man willing to create something entirely new for their future together. I think, she said slowly, that Zoe and I would be very happy here. With you. Elijah's face broke into a wide smile. Really? You're saying yes? Maya nodded, her own smile matching his. I'm saying yes. Let's do this. Together. The joy in Elijah's eyes as he wrapped his arms around her confirmed that she had made the right decision. This was what beginning a new chapter looked like, not without fear but with hope stronger than doubt. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity. Maya gave notice on her apartment, and together she and Elijah chose furniture for their new home. They decided to move in right after the new year, giving them time to settle before work demands increased again. Christmas was celebrated in Maya's apartment, with Tamika joining them for dinner. Zoe was delighted with her play kitchen from Elijah and spent hours cooking pretend meals for everyone. I have something for you too, Elijah told Maya after Zoe had finally been put to bed, exhausted from the excitement. He handed her a small wrapped box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with 3 small charms, a book for Maya representing her love of learning, a tiny house, symbolizing their new home, and a heart. It's beautiful, Maya said as Elijah fastened it around her wrist. I thought about a ring, Elijah admitted, but that felt like too much too soon. One step at a time, right? Maya nodded, relieved by his understanding. One step at a time. But heading in the right direction. New Year's Eve found them at Elijah's penthouse, high above the city as fireworks illuminated the night sky. Zoe had fallen asleep hours earlier in the guest bedroom that had slowly accumulated her toys and books over the months of their relationship. Any resolutions for the new year? Elijah asked as they stood by the windows, champagne glasses in hand. Maya considered the question. To be brave, she said finally. To trust what we're building together, even when it's scary. Elijah touched his glass to hers. I like that resolution. I think I'll share it. As midnight approached, Maya reflected on the incredible journey of the past year. From a desperate job seeker caught in the rain to a successful professional with a fulfilling career. From a struggling single mother to a woman in love, building a future for her daughter that she had only dreamed possible. 1 minute to midnight, Elijah said, checking his watch. Maya turned to face him fully. Thank you, she said sincerely. For what? He asked, puzzled. For opening your car door on a rainy day. For seeing something in me worth taking a chance on. For loving Zoe as if she were your own. Elijah's eyes softened. Maya, you and Zoe aren't the only ones who got a second chance that day. You helped me remember what really matters. As the clock struck midnight and cheers erupted from parties across the city, they shared a kiss that felt like both a culmination and a beginning. 2 days later, they moved into the brownstone together. The day was chaotic, with movers coming and going, boxes everywhere, and Zoe alternating between excitement and overwhelm. By evening, only the essential rooms were set up: the kitchen, Zoe's bedroom, and the main bedroom. After a simple dinner of takeout eaten picnic style on the living room floor, Maya put an exhausted Zoe to bed in her new room. The little girl fell asleep almost immediately, surrounded by familiar toys and books that made the new space feel safe. Maya found Elijah in the kitchen, unpacking dishes. She wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her cheek against his back. We did it, she said softly. This is our home now. Elijah turned in her embrace, his hands gently framing her face. Home is wherever you and Zoe are, he said. The house is just a bonus. Later that night, lying beside Elijah in their new bedroom, listening to the unfamiliar creaks and settling sounds of the brownstone, Maya felt a profound sense of peace. There would be challenges ahead, adjustments to make, lessons to learn about sharing space and building a life together. But for the first time in longer than she could remember, Maya wasn't facing those challenges alone. She had a partner, someone who valued her strength but didn't expect her to be strong all the time. Someone who saw her, flaws and all, and loved her not despite them but including them. As she drifted toward sleep, Zoe's voice came through the baby monitor, not upset but simply talking to herself as she sometimes did when waking briefly in the night. Home, Zoe said clearly before falling silent again. Maya smiled in the darkness. Out of all the words her daughter could have chosen, that one seemed perfect. Home. Not just a place but a feeling. A certainty. A heart finding where it belongs. 1 year later. The December air was crisp as Maya stood outside the Westside Financial Building, exactly where she had stood 2 years earlier in the pouring rain, desperate for an opportunity that would change her life. So much had changed since that day. The Community Empowerment Division she led had expanded to 5 cities, helping thousands of families gain access to fair banking services. Zoe had blossomed into an active, curious 2.5-year-old who loved her preschool and had a vocabulary that sometimes startled adults with its precision. And Maya herself had transformed from a woman barely staying afloat to one confidently navigating both her career and personal life. Penny, for your thoughts? Elijah's voice pulled her from her reverie. He had just emerged from the building, briefcase in hand. Just remembering, Maya smiled, taking his offered hand. It was right here, exactly 2 years ago today. Elijah nodded, understanding immediately. The day you stole my car. The day I mistakenly entered your car, Maya corrected, laughing. Which is entirely different, legally speaking. Happiest mistake of my life, Elijah said, squeezing her hand. Ready to go? Zoe will be waiting. They walked together toward the parking garage, discussing their days. Maya's team had just secured approval for a new financial literacy program targeting high school students. Elijah had spent the afternoon in budget meetings for the coming year. Oh, before I forget, Elijah said as they reached the car, Nathaniel Hargrove announced his retirement today. Effective end of January. Maya raised her eyebrows in surprise. Really? I thought he'd never leave. Apparently his doctor insisted, Elijah explained. His blood pressure has been a concern. That's too bad, Maya said sincerely. Over time, even Hargrove had come to respect her work, though he remained formal and somewhat distant. It leaves a vacancy on the board, Elijah continued, a hint of something in his voice that caught Maya's attention. And? She prompted as they got into the car. And I'd like to nominate you to fill it, Elijah said, watching her reaction carefully. Maya stared at him in shock. Me? On the board? But I've only been with Westside for 2 years. 2 incredibly successful years, Elijah pointed out. The Community Empowerment Division has exceeded every projection. Your leadership has been exemplary. You've earned this, Maya. The vote of confidence warmed her, but concerns immediately surfaced. Wouldn't there be concerns about nepotism? Given our relationship? Elijah shook his head. Your qualifications stand on their own. And it's not like our relationship is a secret. Besides, the nomination would come from the governance committee, not from me directly. I'll think about it, Maya promised, though the idea both thrilled and intimidated her. Their conversation shifted to evening plans as they drove to pick up Zoe from her preschool. Tonight was special, the anniversary of their chance meeting, and they had arranged for Tamika to babysit so they could enjoy a quiet dinner out. At the preschool, Zoe ran to them with her usual enthusiasm, her small backpack bouncing as she launched herself into Elijah's arms. Daddy, I made a picture for you, she exclaimed, already digging in her backpack. The word, Daddy, still caused a hitch in Maya's breath sometimes, though Zoe had been using it for several months now. It had happened naturally, without prompting, after one of Zoe's friends had pointed out that Elijah must be her daddy since he lived in their house and tucked her in at night. The transition had been emotional for all of them. Elijah had asked Maya privately if she was comfortable with it, sensitive to her feelings about Zoe's biological father who had never been part of her life. Maya had assured him that nothing could make her happier than Zoe recognizing the true father-daughter bond they shared. It's beautiful, Zoe Bear, Elijah said now, examining the colorful scribble with appropriate admiration. Is this our family? Yes. Zoe pointed to the figures. That's you and Mommy and me and the baby in Mommy's tummy. Maya and Elijah exchanged startled looks. They had only told Zoe about the pregnancy 2 days ago, unsure how much a 2-year-old would understand about a sibling that wouldn't arrive for another 5 months. That's right, Maya confirmed, touching the small bump that was just beginning to show. Your baby brother or sister. The pregnancy had been a surprise, though not unwelcome. They had discussed having children together eventually but had thought they would wait another year or two. Life as usual had its own timeline. At home, they prepared Zoe for Tamika's arrival, laying out her favorite books and toys. The brownstone had become truly theirs over the past year, filled with photographs and mementos that told the story of their blended family. Be good for Auntie Tamika, Maya reminded Zoe as they prepared to leave for their dinner reservation. I will, Zoe promised solemnly. And tomorrow we can make cookies for Christmas. Definitely, Elijah agreed, kissing the top of her head. It's a date. The restaurant Elijah had chosen was familiar, the same small bistro where they had had their first dinner together. As they were seated at the same corner table, Maya smiled at the thoughtful gesture. Feeling nostalgic? She teased. Appreciative, Elijah corrected. It's important to remember how we got here. Their conversation over dinner flowed easily as it always had. They discussed Maya's potential board nomination, ideas for the baby's nursery, and Zoe's rapidly developing interests and personality. She asked me yesterday if she could take dance classes, Maya said. Apparently her friend Emma is starting ballet. We should look into it, Elijah agreed. She's certainly energetic enough. As dessert arrived, chocolate cake, another callback to their first dinner, Elijah reached into his jacket pocket and placed a small velvet box on the table. Maya's breath caught. Elijah. I've been carrying this around for 3 weeks, he admitted with a sheepish smile. Waiting for the perfect moment. Then I realized there is no perfect moment, just perfect certainty. He opened the box to reveal a beautiful diamond ring, elegant in its simplicity. I promised you, one step at a time, and we've taken many steps together now. We've built a home, a family, a future. But there's one step we haven't taken yet. Moving from his chair, Elijah knelt beside Maya, taking her hand. Around them, other diners noticed and fell silent, watching. Maya Johnson, you walked into my life by accident, but staying there has been the most deliberate choice I've ever made. You've shown me what real partnership means, supporting each other's dreams, facing challenges together, creating joy in small moments and big ones. Tears filled Maya's eyes as he continued. You and Zoe have given me the family I never thought I'd have. Now, with another little one on the way, I can't imagine a better time to ask. Will you marry me? Though the proposal wasn't unexpected given the life they had built together, the emotion of the moment still overwhelmed Maya. The journey from that rainy day to this candlelit evening had been extraordinary. Yes, she whispered, then louder, yes, I will marry you, Elijah Morgan. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, applause broke out around them. Elijah stood and pulled Maya to her feet, embracing her with a tenderness that still made her heart race after all this time. Later that night, after returning home to relieve Tamika and checking on a peacefully sleeping Zoe, Maya and Elijah stood in the doorway of what would soon become the nursery. Currently, it was Elijah's home office, but they had already begun planning its transformation. I was thinking, Elijah said, his arm around Maya's waist. If it's a boy, we could name him after your father. The suggestion touched Maya deeply. That would be wonderful. And if it's a girl? Maybe after your mother? Elijah suggested. She sounds like she was an incredible woman. I wish I could have met her. She would have loved you, Maya said with certainty. Almost as much as I do. As they stood there in the quiet house, Maya reflected on the incredible turns her life had taken. From a rain-soaked job seeker to a respected executive. From a struggling single mother to part of a loving family. From a woman afraid to trust to one preparing to marry the man who had seen her potential when she needed it most. And it had all begun with a mistake, opening the wrong car door on a rainy day. What are you thinking about? Elijah asked, noticing her pensive expression. How sometimes the best things in life happen when we least expect them, Maya replied. And how grateful I am for that rainy day 2 years ago. Elijah smiled, his hand moving to rest gently on the small bump where their child grew. Some might call it chance. But I think maybe it was something more. Fate. Maya suggested with a raised eyebrow. Or just two people who needed each other finding their way to the right place at the right time, Elijah said. Even if one of them had to accidentally steal a car to make it happen. Maya laughed, leaning into his embrace. Mistakenly enter a car, she corrected. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. So would I, Elijah agreed, kissing her softly. Every single time. As they turned out the lights and headed to bed, Maya thought about the story they would tell their children someday. About rain and wrong turns, second chances and brave choices. About how the most unexpected encounters could lead to the most beautiful journeys. And about how love, when it was real, could transform not just two lives but create ripples that would touch countless others. It wasn't a fairy tale. There had been challenges, misunderstandings, moments of doubt. There would be more in the future. Disagreements to navigate, compromises to make, balance to maintain between work and family. But standing on this threshold, engaged, expecting another child, leading fulfilling careers that made a difference in the world. Maya knew with absolute certainty that some mistakes were actually doorways to exactly where you were meant to be all along. And this mistake, opening Elijah Morgan's car door on a rainy day 2 years ago, had been the most blessed mistake of her life.